I'm currently working toward a 15-pound postpartum weight loss goal, and I found myself starting to eat cottage cheese again to help my body sustainably burn more fat. But what makes cottage cheese so special? And is it actually that much better for weight loss than almost equivalent sources of dairy like Greek yogurt? And it turns out that yes, cottage cheese is quite different, although not necessarily always for the better. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance. On my channel, I share the science-backed and delicious information to help you achieve your weight loss and wellness dreams. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Okay, so there are three main reasons why cottage cheese actually might be pretty awesome at helping you to achieve a fat loss goal. And the first is the type of protein that's in cottage cheese called casein. Now, it's pretty established at this point that high protein diets can help you to more easily achieve a fat loss goal, but adding something like cottage cheese into the mix could add a unique benefit beyond just the protein itself. And that's because of the type of protein that's in there. Already from a protein perspective, cottage cheese is going to have some of the highest amount of protein per ounce. For example, you can get about 25 grams of high quality protein from cottage cheese per every 220 calories it provides. And this is even slightly higher than the amount of protein that you'd get from something like Greek yogurt, although they are roughly comparable. But the type of protein that is really prevalent in cottage cheese could give it a slight edge when it comes to fat loss. And that's due to its high casein level. Now, there are two main types of protein in dairy. There's whey and there's casein. Whey is the one that's deemed the gold standard for post-workout recovery. It's quickly absorbed and used by the muscle so you can have faster, more efficient recovery. Whey is also higher in a very important amino acid called leucine, which is essential for creating new muscle or even for maintaining muscle so that you don't lose muscle while you're losing weight. Whey also tends to be a lot easier for people to digest. However, casein, on the other hand, digests a lot slower and is a lot lower in the amino acid leucine. As it digests a little slower, it could theoretically make somebody feel a little bit fuller for a little bit longer, therefore making it easier to achieve a fat loss goal. This makes it not necessarily the best option for muscle recovery, but it could be part of the reason why people are preferring cottage cheese to get their protein intake versus something like Greek yogurt. The way that cottage cheese is made and processed results in about 80% of the protein that's in cottage cheese coming from casein. Compare this to Greek yogurt, which is made in kind of a completely different way than cottage cheese, and it usually only has about 60 to 70% of its end protein coming from casein, with the rest coming from whey. Now, this slight difference in casein could theoretically make you feel fuller longer with cottage cheese, although it also has its main drawback, which is that casein tends to be really hard for a lot of people to break down. Other than just straight up allergies, people are usually reacting to either casein or lactose. Lactose is the typical lactose intolerance, and both cottage cheese and Greek yogurt are going to be fairly low in lactose, especially compared to milk. However, as we just mentioned, cottage cheese is pretty much almost entirely casein. And it's for this reason why some people who are sensitive to dairy are likely going to get bloated or GI upset when they have something like cottage cheese versus other items that are a lot lower or don't have casein in it, like either Greek yogurt or whey protein powder. In fact, cottage cheese was literally like the last thing that I introduced into my diet other than just milk, because even though I loved it, like I love cottage cheese, it would make me feel so bloated. So although cottage cheese could potentially make you feel fuller longer than other dairy products, it does have some drawbacks because it is higher in casein, where it could cause GI distress for some people. Okay, the second reason why cottage cheese could actually be very helpful for fat loss is because of its texture. Love it or hate it, the distinguishing factor between cottage cheese and most other dairy products are those curds, which is really just like a horrible word. Just doesn't sound appetizing. Compared to something like the smooth and creamy and silky Greek yogurt, cottage cheese is quite chunky. And it's actually because of those chunks, which again is another horrible word, that could actually make cottage cheese more satisfying and make you feel fuller longer than something like Greek yogurt. Let me explain. The more textured the food is, typically the slower that we're going to be eating it. Eating food a little bit slower can allow our body to catch up with the satiety hormones of peptide YY and CCK so that you actually feel full and satisfied and you're not going to eat beyond your body's needs. Now, though it might seem slight, that chunky texture of cottage cheese could actually get us to eat a little bit slower than if we were to eat something like Greek yogurt. And that same texture difference can also sort of trick our brain into thinking that the meal is more complete because there are variations in the texture, which I totally have to agree with. When I eat cottage cheese, it just feels like more of a meal than when I eat just straight up yogurt. And that's why if I'm having something like a Greek yogurt bowl, then I make sure to add in different toppings that provide a different texture and flavor experience. That way, not only I'm getting the protein, fat, and fiber, but I'm also getting the different textures and mouthfeel that make make my brain feel like it is more of a complete meal. But with something like cottage cheese, that isn't as necessary. Although I still do add all those toppings to make it rich in protein, fat, and fiber. And I have a ton of different cottage cheese bowls that I've made just with that formula. Okay, the third reason why cottage cheese can be so helpful for a fat loss journey is because of time. This is one of the things I love most about cottage cheese is that you literally just take it out of the fridge and you have a fully formed protein ready to go. You don't have to cook it, you don't have to heat it, you don't have to prepare it. You can just add things on top and your meal is done. That has been one of my healthy hacks over the years, with just first being a busy business owner and then now having 2 kids and a business. I don't have much time anymore. So having little hacks like having cottage cheese in the fridge for a really fast and easy high protein meal makes my life so much easier, and it makes working toward my own postpartum fat loss goals a lot easier. Now, one thing to note is that you do lose the benefit of texture and you also lose the benefit of time when you start to add cottage cheese into recipes. So think of things like cottage cheese muffins, cottage cheese flatbread, cottage cheese bagels, whatever it might be. That's no longer a fast and easy recipe, and the cottage cheese is also blended into the recipe, so you lose the difference in texture. Plus, a lot of these cottage cheese recipes still use processed white flours and sugars, all of which are still not supportive of a fat loss goal, even if you are using cottage cheese within the recipe. But it doesn't mean that you can't use cottage cheese in a recipe to make it healthier and more supportive of your fat loss goals. It just has to be done the right way. In my house, we use cottage cheese all the time. I'll make things like cottage cheese pancakes or edible cookie dough or blueberry muffins, and I'm still making sure that the other ingredients are going to be supportive of taste and a fat loss goal, or just a general wellness goal. In fact, my daughter Sage is obsessed with my blueberry cottage cheese muffins. They are so good and they're still low glycemic load. I shared it on my blog. I'll have it linked down description below, but I might do a video on that, so stay tuned. Whether you're making a quick cottage cheese bowl or you're whipping up something a little more complex like a cottage cheese muffin, what you pair with the cottage cheese matters just as much as the cottage cheese itself, especially if you're looking to optimize for a fat loss or a wellness goal. Now, a while back, I shared my absolutely viral blueberry cottage cheese bowl. It has just 3 ingredients. It's so easy. It's so delicious. You have to check that recipe out next with this video here. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.